Okay, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story of dragons, elves, and kings. This story could not even happen in your wildest dreams. And that is only the beginning. We have it pretty good these days when it comes to importing video games. Whenever a new game from Japan is announced, here in the West we are more than likely to find out it exists, and hopefully after a while it will either get a Western release or an Asian release with English subtitles. But imagine back in the day when importing wasn't that easy. Back in the days when these games could not only not be available in the West, but perhaps you wouldn't know they existed at all. And even if you imported, many systems were region locked, so unless you owned a converter or a Japanese system, you were out of luck. Now, thanks to the internet, we can catch up on the unreleased libraries of the PlayStation 1, SNES and Famicom, to name a few. So today, I would like to bring attention to a Famicom game that deserves some recognition, 100 World Story. Developed by the ASK Corporation at the tail end of the Famicom's life in 1991, 100 World Story is a multiplayer turn-based RPG board game, which has sadly been forgotten by time as trying to find information on it is quite difficult, but thanks to some guy's website you can not only find a translated version of the game, but a whole bunch of useful information in regards to spells and items. Taking inspiration from the popular RPG games on the system like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, 100 World Story mixes what you'd expect from these games like random encounters, level ups, and quests with random events, and unfair chance times that remind me of the Bowser spaces from Mario Party. When you start a game, you'll be given the option of which game mode you'd like to play. It doesn't change any of the mechanics, think of it as what objective you'd like to be playing for. You have Dragon Buster, which tasks players with getting strong enough to defeat the dragon that terrorizes the land. Treasure, where each player must go around completing quests and defeating monsters so they can earn the most money. And finally Princess, where the princess has gone missing before her wedding and you must find her. All the main quests have twists and turns, so even if you play the same mode multiple times, there will still be some surprises. Sometimes even the twist is there is no twist! After that you can pick the amount of players, and yes, you can play with up to 4 people, even though the Famicom only ever had 2 controller ports. As the game is turn-based, only one person needs the controller at any time. But if you're lonely and have no friends, you can play with the CPUs. What's interesting about this though is you can actually edit the personality of the computer to be more of a dick than usual, if you're into that. I am. Now you're all set and ready to play. You're dropped on a randomly generated island. At least I think it's random. There could just be a lot of presets and they cycle through them. So the map will be covered with a fog of war, so it's up to you to explore so you can uncover towns, mountains, forests and swamps. You'll only be able to move 2 spaces per turn, but you can increase that distance by leveling up, using spells and equipping items. As you explore, you could get into a random encounter, and this is where the game will transition to a more familiar JRPG. I love these random encounters, and while the combat is pretty basic, I mean, you can't even use magic until you buy or find a spell, and even then it's one use. But the enemies you fight put the R in random encounter. Really cool. You have these really strange and odd-looking characters, and the added animation really helps to build the characters of the sprites. And another great thing is that there are so many different enemies, so whenever you get into an encounter, you not only don't know what you'll fight, but until it hits you with an attack, you don't know how strong it will be. The difference being whether you kill some cherub with one hit, or get absolutely disintegrated by an angry bird. Another plus is the backgrounds for the fights, which change depending on the location you're fighting in. I appreciate details like that. I really dig the aesthetics of the game. It's very nostalgic of Dragon Quest and the like, with its black text boxes and world map sprites. It's not overly impressive, especially when it comes to looking at character portraits and how every town looks the same. I mean, different towns sell different gear, so why not give them multiple looks so you can tell what certain towns sell? But I find the little animations of the overworld help make the game from looking too simple, plus you can even pick being male or female in the player setup, and they have different sprites, so that's neat. Once you make it to a town, you can access the shops to buy weapons and spells, and there is a dizzying amount of weapons and items you can buy. Things like swords and shields are easy to understand. The more expensive they are, the bigger the damage they do. Easy. But some items are confusing, like dreams and cat ears, and don't get me started on the spells. Yeah, damaging spells like fire and thunder are self-explanatory, but what is the difference between trans, which I guess is a transport spell, and a teleport? This is where you need the website open so you can see which is what. Another thing I like about the shops is the sell rate is 1-to-1. Usually in RPGs, if you find a piece of gear and want to sell it, you'll usually get a fraction of the actual price. typically from NPCs selling the same items for 10 times the price. Not in a 100 World story, this makes buying gear more of an investment as you can easily sell your gear to get to the next tier. Now, usually when you enter a location, your turn would end, but if you went to a town to buy gear, you can leave and equip your gear, then be on your way, which is a useful thing to note. The other things to do in town are go to the inn if you're damaged and need to heal, or you could go to the pub to see if there is someone there to give you a quest. So, speaking of quests, there are two kinds of quests. There are random quests and given quests. Given quests are handed to players when they come across an NPC, but random quests occur at the start of a turn and can be completed by anyone. And this means if players are trying to get rewards quickly, they will all run to that location to complete the quest first. Given quests are usually more rewarding as they give you more XP, coins, and sometimes unique gear, but require a little more effort to complete, like transporting items or NPCs across the map, or fighting more powerful enemies. And if you find yourself in a fight that looks like it's going to end poorly for you, ask some friends to help and team up to fight the monsters. That's right, you can party up in this game, which has more benefits than just giving extra attacks in combat, but XP and coins are shared when defeating an enemy. Quest rewards aren't, so keep that in mind. But when in a party, you can trade gear and coin with one another. You'll also be able to travel around the map much faster as long as you both agree on the destination, that is. Being helpful to your other adventurers is important, as this land is dangerous. But players can be dangerous too. If they're not asking NPCs to mess with you, a player with enough guts can go rogue and start cutting down other players. This can be useful if you want to play an evil character, as defeating another player will make them lose XP and coins and send them back to the beginning of the stage. In fact, that would be a cool idea for a game mode where one player is overpowered and the others have to team up to stop them, with players needing to run around the map avoiding them until they think they are powerful enough to take them on. So after you complete the objective you picked up, the game will tally up your score via your items, coins, and levels. No one really wins this game as you are all fighting for the same cause, but know someone is definitely the winner, as the end result screen will show, and also the short epilogues that appear at the end of the game. So, that's a 100 World story. I would have loved to see the game appear on different systems and adopt the styles and looks of JRPGs on those systems. The idea of an SNES game with more detailed artwork and animation sounds awesome, or a PS1 game with very awkward low-poly 3D models. That sounds even better. I guess the game is relatively hard to find as online prices for the game are quite expensive, but I really wish this game got something like a Virtual Console release or something similar. With the Switch's NES library, 100 World story would be a perfect fit, I think. I mean, you'd only need one Joy-Con, and then you could just plop down the screen and play a short game. I can imagine the trailers of people sitting around at a coffee shop and playing Switch just like people don't in real life, and playing a 100 World story. Well, I guess I can take some solace in the fact that somewhere out there in the world is some person who loves this game as much as I do, as on every copy of Sonic Dreams Collection there is a ROM of a 100 World story hidden in the game files. You can't access it, but it's there, which makes me happy that a lot of people out there own a 100 World story, even if they don't know it.